So you're a young Philip Neri, a charismatic young man with a thirst for adventure and a heart on fire for God. It's the 16th century, and Italy's a whirlwind of Renaissance genius and religious drama. Michelangelo's busy painting the Sistine Chapel, Da Vinci's sketching out flying machines, and the church is rolling in it. In the midst of it all, you've got a knack for communicating with people, but you're also a rebel who's not afraid to shake things up and go against the grain. From daydreaming dropout to the apostle of Rome, what happens when this joyful rebel crashes the Counter-Reformation? This is the story of the second apostle of Rome, the saint that brought laughter and joy back to the church, Saint Philip Neri. On July 22nd, 1515, Philip Neri was born in the heart of the Italian Renaissance. He grew up surrounded by the beauty and chaos of 16th century Florence, where emerging philosophies of humanism rubbed shoulders with ancient Catholic traditions. He was a pious kid, eager to please, which earned him the nickname Good Little Phil. But like many well-behaved young boys with brains too big for their heads, beneath that well-behaved exterior there was a spark of rebellion. This reared its head as he debated, politely of course, with the friars at the Dominican monastery where his education was entrusted. And as soon as he graduated, he felt free. Finally, it was time to get into the world, of which Renaissance Italy was the center, and he wanted to make some money. He travelled to San Germano to learn the family business. His uncle, a wealthy merchant, had big plans for Philip, seeing him as the heir to his fortune. But it turned out God had other plans. As he travelled the old roads of Italy, stopping at monasteries and old shrines to the saints, years of intellectual debate and discussion finally fell into his heart. Philip experienced a profound religious awakening that changed his heart. Much to his uncle's chagrin and his friend's amazement, he abandoned the pursuit of wealth and dedicated his life to God. Despite his family's opposition and the skepticism of even his religious mentors, he knew he had found his heart's true calling. But where could a pious, young, learned man in Italy go to grow in faith? Rome, of course. In 1533, Philip travelled to the beating heart of the Catholic world, eager to learn, to grow, and to immerse himself in the faith. Except when he got there, something wasn't right. The grandeur, the philosophy, the theology, it didn't seem to touch his heart. Instead, he found himself drawn to a different kind of education, one that takes place not in the classrooms, but in the streets. Day in, day out, he ministered to the homeless, the sick, the pilgrims, and the poor. He dropped out of his studies once more, finding the face of Christ in the faces of those in need. He committed himself to the needs of others with the dedication one would give to their Saviour. All the while, he developed rituals and disciplines that grew an incredible commitment to his own personal holiness. Even as he served the needy, he caught glimpses of the disconnect between the Church of Rome and the desires of the people that needed its gaze most. And a desire grew within him. A desire to treat the city of Rome not as a bastion of Christianity, but as a place of mission. He saw the multitudes that needed evangelism. He saw the thousands that had forgotten the message of the gospel and lost the joy of the truth, and felt that the hallowed halls of the Vatican could do little to help. Indeed, Rome needed something new. Just like Philip, we all want to serve those in need. One way you can serve others is through sharing the gospel and edifying stories. That's why I'm delighted to be partnered with YouGrow Studios. YouGrow Studios is a unique, bespoke video production service that takes your video idea from vision to completion. With a team of expert scriptwriters, editors, thumbnail artists, and specialists, they turn your vision into reality in one simple package with low-cost subscription options. With the link in the description, you too can begin a new YouTube journey with free video consultation to get you started and a free profile picture and channel banner when you sign up. Philip Neri's life was punctuated by profound mystical, spiritual experiences that shaped his life and ministry. As his heart for the needs of the Roman poor grew, he felt powerless to change anything. The scale of the problem was so outside of his or anyone else's grasp. Yet in 1544, while he was praying in the catacombs of the Church of St. Sebastian in Rome, he experienced a vision. He saw a globe of fire that entered his mouth and lodged in his heart. This event filled him with an intense love for God and caused a physical sensation of his heart expanding, so much so that it was said to have broken 2 of his ribs. The playfulness and contentedness that he'd cultivated since his initial conversion at 18 broke open into an overflow of joy that could not be contained. He felt his devotion like never before, but also gained a newfound confidence rooted in the deep joy that his work for Christ, the gospel, and the good of the Roman people gave him. With this newfound perspective, he felt he was ready to really move mountains. Philip's ministry proper doesn't start in some fancy church or cathedral. Like the years prior, he takes to the streets, chatting with people about faith and life, using his natural warmth and humour to connect with everyone, from the rich and famous to the everyday folk. But Philip realises that he needs a more organised way to guide people spiritually. So he starts holding gatherings for prayer, study and music, creating a place where local communities and travelling pilgrims can grow in their faith and connect with each other. By 1548, Philip, with the help of his confessor, Father Pisanio Rossa, founded the Confraternity of the Most Holy Trinity. This group formalised the dedication he had to serving the poor, the sick and the pilgrims who flocked to Rome, especially during festival seasons. They even introduced the 40 hours devotion, which was a practice of non-stop Eucharistic adoration that's still going strong today. This confraternity gave Philip and his crew a way to put their faith into action and to serve those in need around them. At 35 in 1551, Philip was ordained as a priest, and he dived headfirst into full-time ministry. He spent hours in the confessional listening to people's struggles and offering guidance. He also had informal chats with people who were searching for something more in their spiritual lives, talking about Jesus, the saints, and the martyrs. Philip had this amazing gift for understanding people's hearts and giving them wise advice, which made him a powerful confessor and grew his fame exponentially. But this was during the height of the Reformation, and fears started to arise in Rome that the authorities had allowed a heretic to take root in their midst. At the heart of the contention was Philip's lax approach to rules and structure in his church. See, at that time, most churches had singing, prayers and preaching, but those and the handling of the elements of the communion were strictly for the authorized only, usually the choir and the priests. But Philip loved the community getting involved. He encouraged congregants to sing, pray for each other, and even debate and discuss publicly, which was dangerously akin to preaching. While Philip and his rapidly growing church felt atmosphere of revival, the authorities in Rome launched an investigation. Poor Philip was interviewed, investigated, and grilled. Yet his staunch defense of Catholicism, pure blamelessness before the committee, and the values of the disciplines and work he promoted spoke for him. Finally, in 1575, Neri was given formal approval by the Pope Gregory XIII, and the Congregation of the Oratory was born. With authorization by the Pope, the congregation became revolutionary. With its huge audiences, Philip encouraged the laity, that's non-ordained members of the church, to help out with the service and emphasized mutual support in the congregation. Philip's congregation sung, broke bread, prayed, and even preached, much like it might have been in the early church. They also focused heavily on establishing exercises, routines, rituals, and disciplines that would help each member build personal holiness. This made the congregation truly accessible and also replicable. Its presence on the key pilgrimage routes meant the word spread quickly, and other communities following their rules and disciplines sprung up all across Europe. So it was that during the emerging Counter-Reformation, this call to holiness and service revitalized the faith for many in the Catholic world's heart. But his contribution was about to get even bigger. The Counter-Reformation was a time of renewal and reform for the Catholic Church as they wrestled with spiritual and institutional issues raised by the Protestant Reformation. Neri encouraged honest study of church history and archaeology, recognizing the need to counter the historical arguments used by the Protestants against the Catholic Church. Indeed, he gave much support to his fellow Oratorian and renowned historian friend, Cesare Baronius, in his study of church history published as Annals Ecclesiastica in 1588, a monumental work of Counter-Reformation historical defense. But as you can imagine, for a guy who lived mostly on the streets, his ideas weren't purely theoretical. Now sanctioned by the Pope, he became a proponent of many of the ideas that initially caused trouble for him. Neri firmly believed that true reform begins with the individual. He stressed the importance of personal conversion and a deep relationship with God as the foundation for any meaningful change within the church. He encouraged frequent confession, daily prayer, and spiritual direction, guiding people from all walks of life towards living a more devout life. Neri also challenged some of the traditional boundaries between clergy and laity by encouraging laypersons to preach and sing common language hymns in his oratory. To his critics, Neri pointed out the importance of an active participation in the church's mission, building community and support networks for every believer. Among his stranger stands, though perhaps one he's most famous for today, St. Philip also insisted on the importance of living a joyful life with lots of laughter. Neri confronted the notion that piety and solemnity are the only expressions of faith, demonstrating that joy and laughter can be integral to a holy life. While some criticized his unconventional methods, he argued joy was a fruit of love and a natural expression of a life lived in God's presence. His radical beliefs were indeed highly popular, attracting people to the faith and building strong communities as the religious practices became more appealing and more accessible than they ever had been before. In direct response to the reformers, Neri encouraged people to express their faith and belief through the beauty of art, music, and their own devotion. Unlike some reformers who employed harsh criticism and condemnation, Neri advocated for a gentler approach, bringing friendship, persuasion, and the transformative power of love to the fore. He believed these actions would be more effective in drawing people back to the church while inspiring the reform that was needed. And the reality was that this was a huge success. Even his death was a joyful miracle in some sense. On May 25th, 1595, at the age of 80, after a decade of failing health, his doctor and he agreed that he would soon die. Intent on continuing his usual activities, he washed, dressed, heard confession, received visitors, and ate, laughing with joy along the way. And that evening, before going to bed, he reportedly said, "Last of all, we must die." And around midnight, he suffered a hemorrhage and passed away. So St. Philip's life is a testament to the power of personal holiness, joyful service, and a deep love for God. His devotion to the people of Rome earned him the title the Second Apostle of Rome after St. Peter. But St. Philip Neri wasn't the only Italian saint vying for that title. In many ways, this was a man deeply influenced by the extraordinary life of St. Francis of Assisi, a life you can find more about here.